Edwards, Mark Ingram, and even J.K. Dobbins will be able to get into open space there. So I am taking my shot on Lamar and Mark Andrews, especially Mark Andrews. I'm really surprised at his ownership right now. On a slate with no Kelsey, no Kittle, and Zach Ertz is not it is not exactly in top form this season, as what could be described as simply it's 2020. I don't understand how everyone's being underweight on Mark Andrews. I know there's a significant price difference compared to, that grouping of tight ends like Jonnu Smith, Hawkinson, and Ingram and Gesicki and a bunch of guys that we're going to talk about. But if I can get, again, Lamar at under 7% ownership on FanDuel on a slate where there's no Mahomes, no Dak, even though he's out for the season. If he was playing this week, he's not on the slate, and no Josh Allen. I absolutely love this Ravens stack. Not necessarily running it back with anybody. If you are, you can always take a shot on your usual suspects. Miles Sanders is due for some volume, but it's a god-awful matchup for him. I can't really trust Zach Ertz, especially not in this lineup where I would be typically going double tight end, because I absolutely love Mark Andrews in this spot. Greg Ward and Fulgham, if you want to take a shot on them, you can. But right now, most of my stacks don't have anybody running it back. I'm just going Lamar with Andrews in a lot of them.
Dude, I'm absolutely in love with Lamar Jackson this week. There's really no other absolute ceiling quarterback on the slate. Usually, like, the hard time for me is if I really like Lamar, if I like Patrick Mahomes, is when they're both on the slate. Now there's no Mahomes, there's no Josh Allen. I hate to say Josh Allen, put that in the category there, but there's
no Kyler,
rushing
no Kyler
quarterback.
too.
Yeah, no Kyler either. So, like, far and away, Lamar Jackson is the only guy on here that can go for 35, 40 points. It doesn't happen often, but if he runs for 102 scores, there's no other quarterback on the slate that could do that. So, I absolutely love Lamar Jackson on the Eagles side. I do want to play a little bit of Miles Sanders just because Baltimore can give up a ton of receptions to the opposing running backs. It's not something I really want to bank on, but Sanders is their most talented player. Lane Johnson is out, so rushing the ball from Miles Sanders is going to be very tough, and it's also going to be very hard for Carson Wentz to get a lot of time. So, green screen's messed up over there. What's going on? But I do think this is a good spot for Zach Ertz, man. With Lane Johnson out, I think it's going to be a lot of just checkdowns to Miles Sanders and Zach Ertz. Is there any upside in Zach Ertz? Doubtful, but what other tight ends on this slate? Zach Ertz is $5K. What else do you need? Gesicki's more expensive than him, right? And Zach Ertz is $100 more than Evan Ingram. So I do think on a GPP format, if you're going to, my favorite stack right now is, it's not going to be my favorite stack. I'll get to my favorite stack, but my favorite quarterback to play on this slate in GPPs is Lamar Jackson, hands down. You obviously know you want to pair him with Hollywood Brown, pair him with Mark Andrews. You could pair him with nobody. It doesn't matter when Lamar Jackson is going to be 5% owned. You can do whatever you want. And then if you do want to wheel it back on the other end, you could use Zach Ertz and not use Andrews. Maybe use Hollywood Brown. Does anybody have Philly injury news here? I know Avonte Maddox is out. Is Darius Slay good to go? I think he was fighting a concussion. If anybody has that, that would be a big-time upgrade for Hollywood Brown if Darius Slay is out. I haven't heard many people talk about that, so I'm assuming Slay is probably good to go. But that's something we really, really, really should keep an eye on. Even with Slay out there, Hollywood Brown's speed is second to nobody. So it's going to be a tough matchup. And anything on defense, whatever. I'm not going to play Philly's defense. I'm likely not to play Ravens defense at that price. It's just too expensive. But there you have it. Let's move on to the next one. Cincinnati at Indy. Cincinnati 19-point implied team total. Indianapolis 26.5. Start us off here, Ghost. What do you like?
Not too much.
One of the low total games. Yeah, right.
Definitely not too much appeal for me here. Every single week, I always make a Joe Burrow to Tyler Boyd lineup just because of how much we love that, and absolutely the definition of a Joe Burrow Tyler Boyd connection truthers. So gotta have at least one in there, but overall not too much appeal in this game. Joe Mixon's volume has been increasing week to week, and last week was extremely off the charts. But Indy's defense is very solid. But again, 20 to 24 carries and then 25 the week before. So roughly 50 carries in 2 weeks with 14 targets. You
Three
can always
down
go
back.
Mixon. Yeah, he's one of the few bell cow backs on this slate. I do like that. Jonathan Taylor is creeping up in ownership, and it's getting a little high for my liking. I was seeing him more so as a pivot, specifically on FanDuel to, the guys like Mike Davis and Alexander Madison in that $7,000 range. But right now he's coming in close to 20% owned now, which is getting up to that same grouping of, Henry, Mike Davis, James Robinson, Kareem Hunt, etc. So might end up being a little bit underweight on John Taylor. Hopefully they do free the man because he's absolutely electric, but
Please.
they need to get him more involved. But I am taking my shot on Bengals defense as well. I know we don't really typically put too much emphasis on defense, but anybody that plays Phillip Rivers at minimum salary has my vote at 3,300 on FanDuel. It's by far the top option for me there.
Yeah, 100%. The Bengals are a very viable punt defense today. Geno Atkins is back. I don't think we've seen him play all year. If so, I don't remember it. So I don't spend a lot of time watching Cincinnati on Sundays as much as I love Joe Mixon. Yeah, dude, I thought Jonathan Taylor would have been like 5 to 10% owned this week with that price point. It's kind of just like right in the middle of nowhere, but his odds to score like minus 250. So on FanDuel, I think Jonathan Taylor's an excellent play. His catch prop is only like 2.5. He really doesn't do a lot in the passing game, and we still just see annoying-ass Jordan Wilkins and Nyheim Hines come in no matter what the game script is. Like, even when they're winning, Hines comes out and gets this. It's so frustrating. Like, they got to let this guy loose. Free Jonathan Taylor, like we said. Mixon, I had a really hard time deciding if I wanted to play Mixon or not. I think you made a great point. It's just how active he is. There's really not that many running backs right now in the NFL that get the workload that he's getting. He is their 3-down back like we always thought he should be instead of Giovanni Bernard. But I don't know. I don't really want to invest too much in this game. I think my favorite little mini stack, like Jonathan Taylor is a top 5 running back play for me this week. I'm going to give him one more chance here. It's not really even his fault. It's kind of Frank Reich and just the running back carousel that he's got there. But they're winning games, so you can't really argue with that. I like Jonathan Taylor and then Tyler Boyd on the other side on DraftKings. Tyler Boyd's like 0% owned. I don't understand that at all. The guy's just getting fed with targets. Last week, it really wasn't the matchup for him. But I think this week, too, with Indy's pass rush, like they are going to check the ball down a lot and hit those short routes. And that is what Tyler Boyd does. And did you see AJ Green's price is $3,900? I just wanted to stop and mention that real quick.
Absolutely absurd.
I thought he died. I was like, oh, man, all right, he retired or something. But, yeah, Kenny Moore is the slot corner for Indianapolis. Tyler Boyd's just such a much better player. And Kenny Moore's all right. I don't think he's like not one of my top 5 slot corners to pick on. But Tyler Boyd is absolutely a top 5 slot receiver that I always want to pick up in my DFS rostering, if that makes sense. I think you can play the Colts defense as well. Trey Burton, what's going on here? This guy's skyrocketing up in ownership. He's at like 10% now. 3,100 on DraftKings. I get it. I think it's a fine cash play. Are you on him at all? Like, I would rather just go down to Irv Smith at 2,500 if I'm getting that low, because an extra $600 like does a lot for my lineup. But what do you think about Trey Burton? Like, this guy doesn't do anything in the red zone, so that's why I don't like him. I get the upside or the floor. Not there's no upside. The floor of him running so many routes in the middle of the field and getting 3 to 4 to 5 yards every catch. Like, cool. He's going to go 5 for 30 and get 8 points. Does that do much for you? If he scores a touchdown, sure, then I'll eat it there. But I don't know. I get why people are interested in Trey Burton for the price. I don't like it.
I just don't see it, especially on FanDuel. Again, I don't know what it is week to week. The pricing is fairly soft. You could jam in a bunch of top end stacks with some high level fillers as well without going below $5,000 at tight end. Irv Smith is cheaper than Trey Burton at tight end as well on FanDuel. So I do prefer him there. I just don't see it. The pro would be that, Phillip Rivers loves the tight end. Mo Ali Cox is out, etc. But Mo Ali Cox only had 1 target last week, and Trey Burton, yes, the targets were there. He had 6, and he caught 5 of them, but they were mostly dump offs, not really a big red zone threat. And if you are one of those people that are scared to play guys like Will Fuller because he gets injured a lot, Trey Burton is 100 times worse. So,
dude, he is.
I just don't see it. Don't necessarily fade a guy just because you think he's going to get injured. But again, if you're one of those people out there listening that says, oh, I don't know if I could play Will Fuller in, one of my GPPs, because what if he gets injured and puts up a 0, then definitely don't play Trey Burton, because he is 100 times worse in that aspect of football.
Or don't play DFS football, because it's football. They could get hurt at any time. As all of your season-long team running back depth charts probably know by now.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm good with this game then. I think Boyd's really, really sneaky for GPPs. He's 5,800. You don't need a whole lot from him, but if you get a ceiling game from Tyler Boyd at that price and no ownership, that is pretty sexy. You can play him with Jonathan Taylor on the other side. I would love to play Joe Burrow. I just can't do it. There's just too many other good games, and I don't ever like picking on Indiana or Indiana. Why I keep saying Indiana? I was just in Indiana last night, but whatever. Indianapolis, they just play at such a slow pace. It's as much as Cincinnati passes. I really like Joe Burrow in games he's going back and forth, and so I do not like it today. Next game. All right, everybody, check the weather here. And again, if you have questions, let's fire them in here. Really haven't heard much. Devonta Freeman, Julian, and Jerry asking about Irv Smith. We will get to that in a second as we get to those games. I think Minnesota's the next one. But Detroit, Jacksonville, it looks like there's some crazy weather going to Jacksonville right now. It looks like a lot of rain. Let me try to pull this up and look at it. I'm not a weatherman. It doesn't look good, though, but they're obviously going to play football. 15 to 20 mile an hour winds. Matt Stafford's like 15% owned. Is this a fade for you? What are your thoughts on this game? I do have some bold calls on this one, though. I like this game, but the weather's starting to get me off it a bit. But two of my favorite players, I think, at GPPs are in this game, with or without the weather.
Very limited player pool for me in this game. Detroit is so committed to the run that I don't want to play Matt Stafford, because I don't think he has the ceiling. Like typically, exactly like what we were discussing with Lamar, why we're playing Lamar, right? Like nobody has that kind of level ceiling. But again, I just don't see a ceiling game here for Matt Stafford being the second highest owned QB on a slate where Detroit is just so committed to the run. They were down by 14 to the Saints before their bye, and they're still running the ball to Adrian Peterson. You're down 14. There's 15 minutes left in the game, and they're running the ball. Like Matt Patricia is beyond committed to running the football here. So does Stafford probably go for, maybe we have to check what the 80 model has him projected for in yardage, but I don't know. I could see maybe 250 for 2 scores. Okay. But for me to justify playing the second highest on QB to get 250 yards and 2 touchdowns, I really don't see it. Definitely do like Kenny Golladay. He's the guy there. Marvin Jones has pretty much fallen off the face of the earth. Hawkinson has limited volume at times, or at least it's put into question. So Kenny Golladay is the clear-cut target there. I know over on DraftKings, his price is just outright disrespectful at 6,200. So even on FanDuel at 7,200, both him and another wide receiver that I have so much of in that $7,000 to $7,500 range. Kenny Golladay is one of 2 guys there that really sticks out for me. On the Jacksonville side, going right back to the James Robinson you can run on this Detroit defense. Definitely do like him. And then we got to play our boy LaVisca. Chark is sounding like he's going to play, or at least he's going to test it in pregame warmups. Anybody that plays based on the fact that they have to test out their injury, I don't typically like in a spot like that. So give me the Swiss Army knife of that Jacksonville offense in Chenault and James Robinson. Golladay I have a bit of, but no quarterbacks in this game, and I do not have a stack of this one.
All right. Yeah. I mean, you could obviously stack up Stafford with Marvin Jones, Kenny Golladay, with Hawkinson Golladay, with one of my favorite plays on the board in GPP is DeAndre Swift. I think this is a coming out party for DeAndre Swift, especially with this weather. Like Ghost said, Detroit loves to run the football. They really haven't done it this year because they've been chasing points. This is a game that they're a favorite in on the road. I think after the bye week, DeAndre Swift should, this is usually when we see rookies start to turn it on, is when they get another, an extra week to watch film, get more practice reps in. DeAndre Swift was taken, a couple picks after Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They drafted him to be a absolute stud for this offense. They need to get him going. 4,500 against a pretty bad run defense. And then on the other side, I think James Robinson is an absolute smash play. I think who was asking about low-owned running backs here. This is Williams. I think, Aaron Jones, I messaged you there. We'll talk about all these games, and we'll talk about who our GPP plays are and stuff like that at low ownership. I think James Robinson at 10%, DeAndre Swift at 0 people are going to play Swift, though. I'm not the only one seeing this, and it happens every single year with rookies after the bye week. This is a great spot for both of those running backs. When it looks like everybody is going to Matt Stafford, Kenny Galladay's at 20%. I think he's probably my favorite receiver on this slate. The weather scares me a little bit, but Galladay's an absolute lock in DraftKings cash games. You just got to play that price tag there and 20% ownership. I think I'm a full fade on Matt Stafford. I think, Ghost, you're with me there, right? We're not playing Stafford at 15% ownership at all. You can play him in cash if you want to. Again, the weather, I don't know how much it actually impacts the games, but if it's raining and windy, that sounds pretty shitty for me. Then Hawkinson, I'm not in love with it, but if you're stacking Detroit, if you trust this game, you got a gut feeling. Jacksonville is dead last in pass defense DVOA. You could pass all over them. I think it's rookie Chris Claybrooks on Kenny Galladay. That's a problem. Galladay's going to eat him up. Let's just hope this weather stays reasonable, and we can get a 6-7 catch game out of Galladay for 85 yards and a score. I think that's all we really need in cash games. If you want to use them in GPPs, moving Galladay and James Robinson is probably my favorite mini stack. I don't want a full game stack here. I just want some exposure to it. Ghost, am I crazy for wanting a piece of this game in almost every lineup that I have? Just one Jacksonville, one Detroit. I think almost all my builds have that, because I do love Shenault as well. You can go Shenault and DeAndre Swift. The total on this game is pretty high. It's at 53 points. I think both these defenses suck. Why would you not want a piece of each offense? Am I crazy here? It seems like you just don't like this game at all, and I kind of do, as a secondary stack or mini stacks for my lineup correlation.
I think for the mini stacks, I'm on board 100%. It's more so the full stacks that I'm completely off of it. But a lot of times when I was building my lineups, and I always go with my main stack first, and then I end up taking a look at can I actually fit a mini stack in there instead of just plugging in 4 to 5 one-offs. And a lot of the times you can fit James Robinson and DeAndre Swift, or James Robinson with Galladay. So if you're getting one piece of each game, I would go both backs or go Robinson and Galladay, just because of a bunch of other wide receivers that I do like on FanDuel today. But Shenault is probably going to be the lowest owned in that price bracket, especially that he's higher priced than guys like Brandon Cooks, guys like Claypool, guys he's same price as Justin Jefferson. So Shenault is probably going to get overlooked, especially on FanDuel. So I could get on board with that. If you are filling out your lineups, though, I would probably go both running backs in Robinson and Swift, or Robinson and Galladay.
Right on, yeah. James Robinson, out of the games we covered so far, he is second in odds to score at -155. Obviously, Jonathan Taylor at 250 is just extremely higher. So again, we love Taylor on FanDuel. I also love him on DraftKings just because I don't know. I love Jonathan Taylor, even though they don't play the damn guy. All right, next game. Seems like everybody's favorite game to stack. Or just not even stack, because no one's playing Cousins, no one's playing Matt Ryan. They just want every single other player in this game. At Atlanta, at Minnesota 28, damn near 29-point implied team total. They were number one on the adjusted expected team totals, a new tool at Win Daily that does not factor in kickers, and it factors the 80-mile in for all touchdown equity. So something that should be extremely, extremely effective for fantasy sports and daily fantasy sports and in general, and just what stacks will make the most sense. Minnesota's blowing that model up, and I kind of hate it because I did not want to play this game at all. There's just so much damn chalk. But is there a better wide receiver pairing than Adam Thielen and Calvin Ridley in this game, or anywhere on the slate?
I don't think so. No.
Yeah,
I think this is probably the number one.
Both these secondaries suck.
Yeah. I can't really get behind Kirk Cousins coming in as now the chalkiest quarterback on FanDuel. I don't know if you want to be getting up off your couch screaming you like that. By all means, stock away with Kirk Cousins. But I just don't see it. Minnesota typically runs a bunch of offensive plays where Justin Jefferson is the lone wide receiver on the outside with Thielen in the slot, obviously. Then you have Alexander Madison today that's going to absolutely do work in that outside run scheme. A lot of good stuff to like in this game. Wherever I'm playing Thielen, I'm typically not playing Madison. I do have a few lineups with both of them together, but right now I'm a little underweight on the combination of both of them, especially that they are number 1 and 2 overall in the entire slate on FanDuel in ownership. So if you are doing that, then make sure you're running it back with Calvin Ridley. And let's not forget Julio Jones. I know he's been MIA the past couple of weeks. He's been dealing with some injuries and stuff like that, but I'm actually going to check his ownership right now. If you can get 4% owned Julio on FanDuel.
Yeah, dude, I'm off him and I am scared shitless.
Yeah. That for me, every time I was stacking, it was, I had Matt Ryan with Ridley and God Turley because I do like the touchdown equity there. Playing 3% on God Turley absolutely smashed last week, and I think we're going to get a repeat here because I simply think he has one of the highest touchdown equities on the entire slate. Guys are scoring every single week. So I was kind of going God Turley with Ridley, and Julio's the forgotten about man. They're very, very rare that you end up seeing Julio Jones priced at 8,200 on FanDuel, well below that $9,000 DK. Yeah, so
67. Holy shit.
Well below that range that you typically see guys like Devonta Adams and 2019 Michael Thomas and a bunch of these other guys, right? So I am gonna have more than the field in terms of Julio percentage. Definitely like Ridley. Madison is the absolute lock in cash games. He's going to be the highest owned player on the slate, and even for GPPs, you could argue the fade just based on ownership alone, because if he does bust, then definitely have a huge advantage over the field. I would stick to doing that in large field tournaments, these tournaments where they're typically 150 maxers and there's over 10,000 entries, then by all means, definitely have a couple without Madison. Same thing goes for Thielen. Play one or the other because both are going to come in 40+% on FanDuel today.
All right, Ghost, what do you think? Michael's question here. Can you play Jefferson and Thielen together on FanDuel? My answer would be, yeah, if you have Kirk Cousins in there, like that makes the most sense to me. Or if you have Matt Ryan and like Ridley on the other side, and you just full-blown invest in this game, just shooting out and both quarterbacks having 50 pass attempts. But what do you think?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I would typically want Kirk Cousins there, and then you might even want either Ridley or God Turley, just because if Jefferson and Thielen are both balling out, you're probably playing under the assumption that Atlanta is up in this game. So
they would have to be, otherwise Minnesota's just going to run the hell out.
Yeah, that's it, right? So if you're fading Madison plus playing both receiving targets there, definitely get Kirk Cousins in your lineup, and then you got to run it back with either God Turley or Ridley if you think Atlanta's going to be up.
Yep, I 100% agree. If you're just making just make a game script right there, and you're like, all right, well, Atlanta scores like crazy, so yeah, maybe put Matt Ryan and Ridley in that lineup, or Hayden Hurst, God Turley. I think Todd Gurley's only in play for me on FanDuel. He's at 6,300 on DraftKings. I know he's way less ownership than Jonathan Taylor, but I just want to go to Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor is minus 250 to score again. I keep saying that. What is Gurley? Let's get that. That's got to be.
The price is a little high on DK. On FanDuel,
minus 115. I think I would take that bet. This dude is just an absolute monster in the red and green zone. The green zone's just the 5-yard line and in. So really where the touchdowns most likely come from. Yeah, I don't know. All right, Irv Smith, sneaky play. Dude, I have so much Irv Smith this week. I hate it. I don't why would I ever invest in a tight end that splits time on a run-first offense is beyond me. It's his price tag. It's $2,500. And again, I'll get to kind of my favorite builds as we get to those games, but I have so much Irv Smith. It scares me. The model kind of likes him. I mean, it's got him projected for 9 points. It only had Burton for like 8.7. So if I trust the numbers, I got to go with Irv Smith. I mean, he's number 3 on this slate in route or average up the target for tight ends. And I just need Atlanta to push the pace. Like Irv Smith isn't going to do shit if Atlanta's not scoring. So for a lot of my lineups, if you want to know how my day's going, I need Atlanta to score because I need Irv Smith to at least get a couple catches. And if he gets a touch and I'm going nuts, I'll chug a beer and we'll do something fun in Discord. Hayden Hurst, you got any interest in here? Like, obviously, we don't really need to talk about Ridley, Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson. We know how, like, you guys should know by now, the Atlanta secondary is dreadful. These are two of the top receivers on this slate. It makes perfect sense. Thielen, if you're not using Madison and Cash, you can go Thielen. I guess you could go Thielen and Madison together in the same cash lineup, but I personally have never done that. It's like anytime Madison is getting the ball, Thielen is getting 0. I don't want my cash lineup ever built that way in case this game doesn't pace up. And I think a lot of sharp money is on the under here. So that scares me with Irv Smith, as sharp money thinks that Minnesota covers this ball game, and Madison is just getting 30 touches and running away with this game, which is certainly possible. We know how much we like Minnesota's running game as well. I don't have a whole lot of Madison in tournaments just because I'd rather go up to Derrick Henry or go up even more to Aaron Jones. But like, what are the sneaky plays in this game? I think Irv Smith isn't going to be that sneaky. He's going to be like 15% owned just because the same reason I like him is just he's kind of a free square. If he gets you 5 points, tip of the cap to him. That's all we need, 2x value. We could, if he gets 10, 14, then we're swimming in a pool of cash most likely if the rest of our bill goes. But talk me off Hayden Hurst. I mentioned the ADOT thing. I was really looking at that this week. It's like, all right, what games, if they get out of hand and start shooting out, what tight ends that are under 5K can actually put up a long touchdown? And it's Irv Smith, it's Hayden Hurst. Their average depth of targets over 10 yards. Not many tight ends have that. Besides Mark Andrews' average depth of targets probably like 30 yards because he just runs down the seam and no one ever covers him.
It's exactly
or is that our answer though? Or is that our answer? Go, sorry, I'm a head case today. Or do we just go to Mark Andrews everywhere because we're getting way too cute with these other tight ends? But if the total in this game is over 50-something points, Hayden Hurst is really active. He runs routes in the red zone. He's not there to run block. Well, when they're running, obviously Hayden Hurst couldn't score a touchdown then anyway, but it's just tight end shit. I usually just love all right, Kelsey's my cash game tight end. Boom. That's easy. Next. Like, I don't have that this week.
So that was exactly my thought process, right? So we're discussing last night, and I'm saying switch Mark Andrews' name with Kelsey or Kittle, and whoever you plug in there is probably 40 to 50% owned, honestly, like this.
Yep.
So the matchup is absolutely amazing for Mark Andrews. Philly blows versus the tight end. I feel it, especially on FanDuel. I know you touched on the DraftKings side, so I will touch on the FanDuel side here. The way people typically build their lineups, right, is that you have a core of guys surrounded into every single one of your lineups, right? So you're going to have your stacks with a quarterback, a running back, wide receiver, or wide receiver, and then you're running it back with somebody. And then your fill-ins are going to come primarily from your core. So because a lot of people don't use tight ends in their stacks, especially on a slate like this where there's no Kelsey, because, typically when you want to run a tight end in the stack, it's mostly Mahomes to Kelsey all day long. But again,
that comment cracks me up.
It's 6-9-1. It's the way I'm a Cowboys fan, and it's the worst division in football. Trust me. So, but yeah, like the issue with people building around their core this week is that everyone's so keen on this tight end range between 5,400 to 5,800 because it's a lot easier to pivot there. You end up saying, let me play Jonnu Smith on FanDuel. Well, let me drop $100 or $200 to Gesicki, Engram, or Hawkinson. You have plenty of options. Whereas Mark Andrews is $2,000 more. So it ends up shifting your lineup so much that I guess that's why he's coming in so low owned. But I'm extremely overweight on Mark Andrews. In terms of the other options that you were discussing, Irv Smith for me is strictly a DraftKings play. At 2,500, even if he gets a 0, knock on wood, because I know he won't because you have a ton of them. He won't hurt you just because of everything else that he allows you to do in your lineup. Playing a tight end at 2,500, it's you could put up 200 plus DraftKings points even with Irv Smith getting a 0, but he won't do that because Stix has him everywhere, and the 80 model absolutely loves him. So on Irv Smith on DraftKings, I'm absolutely on board. On FanDuel, I can't really go there. I just don't see the point in you're not saving all that much compared to on DraftKings. And then we were talking about Hayden Hurst. Again, he's having a very tough season thus far, but keep in mind he's in a new offense, no preseason games, barely a training camp. Matt Ryan has been playing quite poorly the past 2 weeks, right? So I I really think this is a week that he can get it going. This is still an offense that favors the tight end position. We saw what Austin Hooper did in that offense last season. So if you want cheap exposure to this game, especially on FanDuel, grabbing a 3% owned Hayden Hurst with a 3 to 4% owned God Turley is quite the matchup versus paying for 40% owned Adam Thielen and 40% owned Madison. And, even Ridley's getting up to the 25% range now. So if you're looking for some low end plays with guys that are very much still active in that Atlanta offense, Hayden Hurst and God Turley are both coming in under 5% owned. So I wouldn't necessarily play him in my main lineup, but in your Atlanta stocks, when you're running Matt Ryan, I don't think there's a better chance of you winning a milli maker with, 900,000 people in it if you have a stock with a quarterback and none of their wide receivers, and you end up going quarterback, running back, and tight end. Not a lot of people are going to have that, right? So, Hayden Hurst and GPPs is definitely in play for me.
Thank God. All right. I hope it wasn't like no one's going to play Hayden Hurst. So if everybody thinks this game's going to shoot out, I just like to always go like it worked out great for us last week with Todd Gurley. We had so much Todd Gurley. He was even less owned then than he is today. Still really low, but the price went up this week. So that's where I'm on him on FanDuel only. But you can play him in DraftKings too. Don't let me talk you off it. I just like to have only. I think I try to make my player pool for doing the 150 lineup thing that I like to do is 65 players, and it's so high. So many good guys are getting cut, and I run a tight ship here. Let's see. All right, Pickett, Henry. I'm gonna pull that question up when we get to that game. I think it's almost next. No. Any other questions, please feel free to ask season long, anything, whatever you want to do. We're here to talk about it, unless it's about the Braves blowing this massive lead to the Dodgers. We don't need to talk about that. If Andrews is the guy, punt wide receiver 3 is necessary. Is that wide receiver 3 in this game? Yeah, that's a really good question. I like that mindset. I don't know. I don't want to play Gage. Certainly not playing Zacchaeus again. It's just Thielen, Jefferson, Ridley, and Julio Jones. I guess if you could find a way to make Hayden Hurst your punt, well, then you're double tight end again. I don't know. No, I don't think that punt wide receiver 3 is in this game. I think it's a guy like maybe Damiere Byrd, Marvin Jones, if you can get down that low. I don't like him by any means, but I'm just trying to look at the pricing and try to – because that's a really good question. Andrews does take a lot out, especially if you're running Lamar Jackson with him. What do you do? Let me think on that one. That's a really good question. Send this guy a free membership, Jason, if you're listening, because that was a hell of a question. That really stumped me. Do you have an answer for that question or no?
On FanDuel, I am not looking at this game unless you're considering Justin Jefferson as a wide receiver for FanDuel there. But again, he is under 6K. So for me, any wide receiver under 6K on FanDuel is pretty much getting to that punt range, right? But
Claypool's free
probably
there.
Yeah, exactly. At 5,500, Claypool's probably the guy there with Deontay Johnson out. You could always go to LaVisca too at 2% ownership. Just updated now; it's going even lower. So under 6K, you can probably go. Justin Jefferson's there at 5,900. Then we mentioned LaVisca at 58, and Claypool at 55. And there is a wide receiver in the Green Bay game that I think both of us absolutely love. That's there under 6K too. So
I could get behind Higgins here as a punt wide receiver. Yeah, certainly. I mean, he gets a ton of red zone targets. Are they going to get in the red zone? I don't know. But yeah, you could do way worse than Higgins. I think that's cool. It seems like AJ Green is kind of phased out of this offense. Then Mooney. You guys want to talk about Mooney? Oh my God. It's not even his fault, but I had a substantial amount on the prop last Thursday night when they were playing the Bucks on Mooney's over. It was only 29 yards. And Nick Foles threw him. He did a kind of fake he's doing a slant, one quick step. I think it was Jamel Dean in coverage. He bit, and Mooney was gone. And Nick Foles he didn't even overthrow him. He threw it 10 yards right out of bounds, and it would have been a walk-in touchdown. Oh, man. But that same exact play, I guarantee you the Packers watched that film. Jamel Dean is potentially out today. I don't know. We'll get to that. Again, we love the injury news if you guys have it, because we're here. We can't study that. But Marquez Valdes-Scantling, if you guys watch the Bears-Bucks game and you know the play that I'm talking about that broke my heart, that Mooney should have had a 50-yard touchdown. And Scaling's going to catch that ball because Rodgers will not miss that throw, and they're going to run the same route. So there we go. Chark is playing, yeah, but Laviska, it's more just his price, and the dude is getting a shit ton of snaps. He lines up at running back, tight end, wide receiver, slot receiver, everything. Like, he's just too cheap, and he's like a lock to get you 10 points every single game this week, don't you think, Ghost? Like, I've been on him. I played him last week. He was in my main lineup. In week 2, he was in my main lineup, and he was like 3,800. He got me 10 points. Like, he's not a guy that's going to blow the doors off of anybody, but he's just so damn active. That's why I like him. Chark coming off a big ankle injury. I think Detroit's secondary is getting healthier. Not sure. Let me see here. Go ahead if you got any thoughts on Laviska, though. It seems like you and me are always on him. I just love how active he is in this offense. Short answer.
I absolutely love him this week. He's coming completely unowned with, being in that bunch surrounded by guys like Chase Claypool and Justin Jefferson and all the other guys that we talked about. So he has 20 targets in the past 3 weeks, more yards than DJ Chark in the past 2 weeks. And the thing that I absolutely love is that they line him up in the backfield, and you could run all over this Detroit defense. So I know we said we love James Robinson, but who's to say that Laviska doesn't run one in as well on a sweep route, because guy's got absolute burners, and he could really run when he gets into open space. So he's a guy that's consistently involved in the offense, whether it's in the backfield, on the outside. 20 targets in 3 weeks. Those are borderline wide receiver 1 numbers just based on targets alone. So he's got a very safe floor for somebody that's sitting there at 5,800.
But hey, Gravity, that is a great question, though. Like, we could be wrong too. If we're pretty high on Laviska, and this is your mindset, like, why are people high on Laviska when Chark's playing? No one's going to play DJ Chark. And you just heard it here from Mike. Thank you very much. Desmond Trufant's out. He's probably he is their best corner. I know Okudah looked pretty good in that Arizona game, but that's really the only time he kind of looked like a first-round talent. Daryl Roberts and Daryl Roberts and Amani. I don't even know that guy. So he's got to be average. If he's that bad, I would know him. If he's just average, I don't really spend that much time on him. Whoever this Amani, the guy's stepping in for Trufant, but Dale Roberts on the inside's terrible, so that's where I really like Chanel to beat up on him in the slot there. Starting Ronald Jones safe in cash, even if Fournette plays. I would say just go down to David Montgomery. Unless you got a lineup with both of them, yeah, I think you could certainly play Ronald Jones with Fournette in. I don't think it's cash worthy just because no one's going to play Ronald Jones. So he's one of my favorite GPP running backs at low ownership. Again, back to that question. Mooney. Why the hell are people on Mooney? Damn it. I get it, though. I mean, he's 3K and he's going to get 4 to 5 targets. So I'm not saying you guys are crazy. I play with my heart sometimes, and it probably kills me. Next game. Moving on. Washington, New York. I'm going to give this one 2 seconds. Terry McLaurin's in play. Evan Ingram's in play. I don't like the upside with Evan Ingram, but he should be way, way, way more popular at this price tag against Washington. Their linebackers cannot cover Evan Ingram. He is one of the most talented tight ends in football. He's more of a slot receiver as well, kind of like the Gesicki role there. So I'd love those two. I don't love Scary Terry, but I mean, you could play him. James Bradbury apparently gets all the respect in the world, but I don't think you need to fear that. It's like my concern with Terry is, what do we see with Kyle Allen? Is it check down Charlie to Antonio Gibson, who's also in play? Or is it chuck it up to DJ Moore like he did all the time last year, and that should be to Scary Terry? So I don't really know. Terry McLaurin's like 20% owned, so to me that's just an easy fade in GPPs. You can play him in cash just because the price tag, again, super cheap on DraftKings. He's got like a 5.5 catch prop, right about 70 yards. So like the values there in the books of Vegas. I just kind of want to see it first. I'm not going to play Terry in tournaments if he's that high owned. Like I thought everybody would fade Washington. But Gibson, McLaurin, and Ingram, only players I care about in this game. I like both defenses.
That's it. I was going to add the defenses. The one thing I was going to add was the defenses because for me it's the same three: Gibson, McLaurin, and Ingram. A little underweight on Ingram specifically for FanDuel because he's coming in as a top 3 owned tight end. So from that perspective, you can fade based on ownership alone. The one thing I don't understand here is that all of these players are pretty much under 5% owned. yet nobody's playing their defenses either. So if you want to get different in GPPs, you could take a stand by, even if it's just one player, you throw in Terry McLaurin in your lineup, or you end up playing the Washington defense or even the Giants defense. This whole game is coming in under 5% on FanDuel specifically.
It's Kyle Allen and Daniel Jones. Like, if there's not more turnover, like now that Jameis Winston is not a starter, like this game has the most turnover equity out there. And both these defenses, like, really put a lot of time into FanDuel this week. I don't know why. I never play there, and they don't pay out till Wednesday. So I don't know why.
Only 3 to 5 business days for them to update stats.
Yeah, it's probably that new Millie Maker tournament there that drew me in, and sucker that I am. But New York's defense on FanDuel is so damn cheap. Just go there.
Yeah.
But listen weekly and have an idea, but want to know. Okay, explain fade and chalk. So fade is just we're not playing him. So like a guy like Terry McLaurin, he's 20% owned, and if you assume those ownership projections are pretty accurate, which they really are. I've never had a tournament that's been way off on ownership from what I see out there. So if 20% of the field has Terry McLaurin and he does nothing, 20% of the field's eliminated. So now when a tournament pays out, the top 22, top 25% on FanDuel, you get a lot better odds of cashing on the 25% stuff. But that's kind of how I look at it. It's like, all right, let's say Terry McLaurin, for the sake of this class here, it was 40% owned, and the tournament pays the top 20%. If 40% of the field chases one guy and he does nothing, they're gone. So now there's only 60% of the field remaining competing for 20% of the pay pool. You pretty much, like, when you fade a guy at 40% ownership and they don't do anything, you pretty much just made a GPP a cash game, because now you almost have, you got like what, a 38, 39, 40% chance of making the pay line now if you weren't a part of that chalk. And you faded that heavy chalk like Madison this week. He is going to be 40% owned. I'm not saying you should fade him. I'm not saying, well, I am going to fade him because I don't play guys at 40% ownership, except Derrick Henry the week he did nothing. But that's besides the point. But yeah, like if Madison lays an egg today and 40% of the tournament field has Alexander Madison, you're literally playing a cash game now to cash a GPP. So you can't do that often. But that's like the easiest route to success, in my opinion, to GPPs, is if someone's 40% owned and you really, like, if you're just not sold like this is the most hammer matchup there is, fade him. And then if he does, your lineup doesn't have to be that good anymore. Like, just to get to the pay line in GPP, which should be your goal, is just, how do I make sure that I'm in cash and have tournament winning upside? But I hope that makes sense. That's a really good question. Like, if people don't understand the terms we're using, please, by all means, let us know, because I don't ever want to act above anybody and just say, hey, if you don't know this right by now in DFS, like, get out of here. And like, no, we are welcoming every single person we can. So please, any questions that we could help you become a better player, we're all for it. Who do you use for ownership projections? You can honestly just Google it and look at it. I think Windaily itself is trying to get into this, but there's so many different people out there that do it. You can honestly just ask us too, and we could tell you roughly. Or like a guy like Madison's being talked about every single tweet about DFS this week. You bet your ass it's going to be pretty high on. Sorry, got on a rant there, but that was a really good question, man. I love that type of stuff. Is more strategy. How do we help you get better and make more educated plays? Next game, Chicago, Carolina. Pretty low total here. I personally like the over. I don't think these defenses are like the Bears defense. It is healthy now. Akeem Hicks is back. Mike Davis, here you go. Here's my favorite fade of the week, is Mike Davis at 30% owned. I'll probably play him in cash because the dude he's more of a receiver than anything, but Chicago does not give up a lot of receptions to opposing running backs, mainly because the success against Chicago is running the ball at them and not getting cute and checking down and stuff like that. But their secondary is pretty good too. So it's like, yeah, you just run right at it. Khalil Mack is the best way to kind of neutralize him. What do you like in this game? Montgomery is crazy chalk as well. He's 30% owned. I'm not going to fade him because he's 5,800. You could get a lot of good players in your lineup, and the 80 model absolutely loves David Montgomery. Vegas books were really low on his prop. I saw it open at 57.5. The 80 mile has him for like 71 yards. So I just kept betting the over every single day. And I think now it's at like 62. So that's better. Like, that's more of the range that we need out of David Montgomery at this price tag. But what do you like in this game? I think I'll get into it after you do, but I think I'm 100% in on Montgomery. Mike Davis is only in play for me in DK cash. I don't want anything to do with him other than that. And if he burns me, he burns me.
So
you got a 5-catch prop. So there you go. On DraftKings, he starts the game with a touchdown if you assume that the books know what they're doing, and he's going to get 5 catches. So that's why he's great for cash.
So last week we ended up picking on this Carolina run defense, ranked 29th in the league DVOA, and God Turley was unowned, and that paid off. So I'm going back to the well there with David Montgomery. Kind of upset that his ownership has been skyrocketing throughout the week because it didn't open up like that, and now he's coming in as second highest owned running back specifically for FanDuel. So a little underweight in tournaments, definitely part of my main lineup and my main cash lineup because I do think he has a good game, but again, that's a way for you to kind of get different specifically for FanDuel. On FanDuel again specifically, I do like Mike Davis. So the reason why is because this is the lowest owned Mike Davis you will ever see in terms of the past few weeks. Typically, he was always a staple point for everyone's main lineup and especially their cash lineup because of the floor that he presents and everything like that. And now with everybody so keen on Madison and Montgomery, Mike Davis is coming in lower, like roughly 15 to 20% lower owned than he should be. Honestly, like this, Chicago had a really hard time tackling last week, and Ronald Jones just scampered for over 110 yards on them. I know Mike Davis isn't exactly the best rushing running back out there, but the volume has increased from week to week. Last week, he had back-to-back weeks, actually 16 attempts for over 85 yards. And if people are looking at this from a wide receiver standpoint, where you end up saying, oh, I would like my wide receiver to get 10 targets and 10 catches of 60 yards and a touchdown. Well, that's what Mike Davis did last week, but just on receptions alone, let alone the rushing work that he has. So Chicago is a lot better versus catching. And like we've been saying, the volume is definitely there. Whether the production is sustainable or not, I don't know. But again, I think he's a lock for at least 5 catches, and the rushing work that's there, he'll probably end up scoring. If we could get the odds on him scoring too, I will check that as I pass this over to you now. But I do like Mike Davis on FanDuel just because of how lower owned he is compared to every other back. On DK, it's a different story. Definitely on board with you there. Being
priced minus 200 to score.
Yeah,
that's
so
good.
Mike Davis at that. Yeah, at 7,000 on DK, it's kind of tough. Same range as Madison, same range as Derrick Henry, and everything like that. But on FanDuel, it's a definite advantage over the salary. So that's where you could end up differentiating your plays from site to site. In case we do have people that are watching that do play multiple lineups on both sites, you don't necessarily have to play everybody on one and not on the others. So on DK, I am on board with the fade there, other than in cash games, depending on what his ownership is. Definitely, like $200 more or something like that. So it's kind of absurd. But on FanDuel, I have a ton of Mike Davis right now. No real interest in the passing game for Carolina, but my top play in this game is Allen Robinson. Absolutely beauty of a matchup that I will let you talk about because I know you absolutely love him this week.
Yeah, I think he's number 2 in the model for receiving yards, right behind Devontae Adams and Adam Thielen, maybe. So maybe he's number 3. But yeah, everybody's going to play Dave Montgomery. I think you should too. In cash for sure. Just lock in probably both of these guys, Mike Davis and Montgomery. And then you go play A.J. Brown and Claypool. And who's the RB? And Madison. Like, there you go. Like, that is the 5 chuck is players that are likely to be in everybody's cash game lineup. Probably mine too. I don't know if I'm in on A.J. Brown yet. We'll get to that. But yeah, Allen Robinson is the easiest pivot. It's not the easiest because like Jason asked me yesterday on Sirius about that. He's like, well, pivot away from Montgomery up to Robinson. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Like, if everybody's going to play David Montgomery, why not? They can get in the red zone, get stopped, and Allen Robinson gets the touchdowns and cleans up for everything that David Montgomery just did to get him there. Or it could be Robinson on deep ball. Like, there are very few target hog wide receivers on this slate. There's Adam Thielen, who's getting like 32% of the target share in Minnesota. There's Devontae Adams, who we assume is just 100% healthy and going to get back to his 32% target share for Green Bay. And then there's Allen Robinson, who's like 35% of the target share of the Bears. So I love Robinson. I will have a ton of him in tournaments. I think you could mini stack it if you're not fading Mike Davis, because Mike Davis makes a ton of sense, especially at minus 200 to score and 5 catches on DK. It's probably a terrible fade for me, but I'm going to do it. So if he goes off, just, know I'm probably tucked in the corner crying. But
Allen Robinson has 40 targets in the last 3 weeks. I just saw that.
Dude,
40 targets.
Yeah, lock him in, man. Play Allen Robinson, get Mike Davis on the other side, or just play solo Allen Robinson. He's going to be like 5% owned, so ride it. That's it for me. I don't really like anything else. Montgomery makes perfect sense in any lineup that you build, but if you got Allen Robinson in there, probably get Montgomery out of there because the Bears play very, very slow. I don't see Carolina getting a huge lead and the Bears needing to play quick catch up. So unless you see that game script happening, it's one or the other for me. In a lot of lineups, I'm either going to have Robinson or Montgomery. But Montgomery is very, very, very chalky. So if you're not a believer in David Montgomery, I'm more of just a believer in this matchup as Ghost. It sounds like you are as well. It's just kind of the run against Carolina, and they give up a shit ton of touchdowns too. And Montgomery's the 3-down back. But if you say David Montgomery sucks and you're not going to buy into a 30% owned David Montgomery in tournaments, I would not talk you off that at all. That's kind of that same fade chalk type of conversation we just had. Montgomery is certainly not great chalk because he's David Montgomery. Houston, Tennessee. All right, this game's awesome. Everybody, this game is more popular than Minnesota. Ryan Tannehill, 15-20% owned quarterback. I will be fading as well. I think he's fine for cash. Deshaun Watson on the other side. Also, I always love Deshaun Watson. I think I'm just a Deshaun Watson truther. 80 Model has him as the number 2 quarterback on this slate for GPP upside. Number 1 was Lamar Jackson. Number 2 is Deshaun Watson. So I do love him. I think I want to get him as my cash game quarterback. So again, it's going to be like Mike Davis, David Montgomery, Deshaun Watson, AJ Brown, Chase Claypool. And then whatever. Oh, Madison. Duh. You got to lock him in cash. What do you like about this game? Everybody's playing A.J. Brown. Everybody's apparently playing Jonnu Smith. Derrick Henry's at 25%, but this seems to be a matchup where I think he should be 50% owned. I love Derrick Henry.
I absolutely love this game. It's probably tied for my favorite game on the slate with another game at 4 p.m. Play everybody in this game. My main lineup right now has Watson. I'm cool with Tannehill. Ownership varies from site to site, and both of them are, relatively chalky on DK, but both are under 10% on FanDuel. So you can get exposure to both. Derrick Henry will be a guy that I'm underweight on in tournaments, just because I think Tannehill gets into these types of games where the other quarterback is balling out and he wants to do the exact same thing. So I think it's Tannehill to AJ multiple times this week. AJ Brown absolutely torched Houston last season. And I know it's going to make you upset because AJ Brown's probably chalk on DK. I know AJ Brown went for over 15 catches. Yeah. Over 15 catches, 250 yards, and 2 touchdowns in 2 games versus Houston last season. Their defense actually got worse. He came back last week, soaked up 9 targets, had another 3 on penalty flags. So 12 targets in that game, 80 yards, and a touchdown. I would be extremely shocked if A.J. Brown doesn't go for over 100 yards and a touchdown in this game. I think Tannehill and Watson just go back and forth. I have no interest in David Johnson. I do have some Henry just in case. But again, I know a lot of people, the rushing prop is high. Last time I checked, it was at 112.5. But, it's not impossible that, he does bust for his salary concerning what he did against Jacksonville when, I was extremely overweight on Derrick Henry there. He ran 20 times for 80 yards and no touchdowns. And it was Jonnu Smith getting 3 touchdowns, and he actually even ran one in, I think, that week, which drove me absolutely crazy. But Tannehill to AJ multiple times this week. On the other side, it's Will Fuller, Brandon Cooks, Deshaun Watson. That's it. You can play Randall Cobb if you want to. That's a good matchup for him out of the slot as well. But it's more so on the outside for me. Tennessee does allow, they're tied for 3rd in the most amount of air yards allowed. These are 2 extremely fast wide receivers. on Houston. So look for Watson to be absolutely launching the deep ball in a game like this. And then specifically for FanDuel, again, Jonnu Smith is coming in at 25% owned. Far and away the chalkiest tight end on the slate. Everyone else is under 10%. So you got to go Jonnu in cash, but in tournaments, I'm going all wide receivers here. I'm going Watson with Cooks, Fuller, and running it back with AJ Brown. And then if you are going Tannehill, I'm cool with even including Derrick Henry in a stack like that. You could go Tannehill, Henry, AJ Brown, run it back with Fuller, or Tannehill, AJ Brown, and Jonnu, and run it back with Will Fuller. But I absolutely love this game.
Yeah, the way to beat Tennessee is on the outside with speed, especially with no Adoree Jackson, super fast corner for Tennessee, who is not playing. Yeah, Will Fuller, I absolutely love him. AJ Brown, I'm going to be off him on GPPs, so I hope it doesn't kill me. I will have a couple game sacks, though. I will not play Tannehill at 20% ownership. I get it. He could run in a touchdown, too, so he's a good play. He's probably a great cash game quarterback if you want to pair him up with AJ Brown if you don't want to use Watson. I'm all about Watson because exactly what Ghost said. He is going to chuck some deep balls today. Will Fuller is going to burn a long touchdown. I love Will Fuller. Brandon Cooks still pisses me off. I can never call a good Cooks game, but his props are pretty solid. Honestly, I think this was a really good question by Sonny Humphreys. Like, no one's going to play Adam Humphreys. So if you yourself are invested in Ryan Tannehill in this pass-catching game for Tennessee and you don't want to play Brown, or if you want to play Brown and double stack it with Adam Humphreys, no one's going to play Humphreys. Every single person out there that is playing chalk stacks are going to have Tannehill, AJ Brown, and Jonnu Smith. Like, that combined aggregate ownership is over like 60%. I think that is the worst stack you could possibly do in GPPs unless you just get crazy different elsewhere. But I could see Tennessee just running the ball 25 times. Derrick Henry barely, what do you have, like 15, 16 touches on Tuesday, and then they kind of just sat him. There's no Darrington Evans today, too. So it's McNichols or whatever the backup is, and Derrick Henry. I see Derrick Henry getting 28 carries today, $140 and 2. I'm all in on Derrick Henry, and I hate it because I usually like pass-catching backs on DraftKings, but if only 25% of the field is going to play the guy on the slate with the best odds to score, minus 270 right now, Derrick Henry, I'm going to play as much of him as I can. I'll probably have 80% of my lineups have Derrick Henry. So, again, if Derrick Henry does nothing, I'll be in the corner crying. Jonnu Smith, he's a great play. I'm just not into that ownership. If you want to play him, though, it probably makes sense to just double stack them with Tannehill and AJ Brown, or go Tannehill, Humphreys, and Jonnu and hope that Humphreys gets a touchdown or two and AJ Brown has a quiet day. Bradley Roby is a really good cover corner who's going to shadow him, but I think AJ Brown is just a much more talented player than Bradley Roby, and he's such a bigger body. Like, this dude, you can't cover AJ Brown. So I don't care who the corner is. It could be 2008 Darrelle Revis, and I still like AJ Brown in that matchup. But Will Fuller's for sure my favorite play in this game. Randall Cobb, I think if you want to double stack Houston, like I think this is one of my favorite stacks is Watson, Fuller, Randall Cobb, relatively cheap because Cobb gives you a lot of savings. Then you could probably eat the chalk on AJ Brown and then just get Derrick Henry. Like, that is a ton of touchdown upside and a safe floor with Randall Cobb. He's got like a 4.5 catch prop, so Vegas likes Cobb today. I think that's probably one of my favorite stacks.
That is my main lineup right now. Watson stack.
Nice. All right, with Brown and Henry.
I don't have Henry in it, but you might be talking into it. I have AJ Brown in it right now.
Double stack. I mean, get to Tennessee. If this game is projected to be the second highest pace in the 80 mile. So
yeah, it's really interesting to see the ownership differences from site to site today too. We're going on week 6 here, so through 5 weeks, I've yet to see such ownership discrepancies from site to site. So definitely interesting to know that Tannehill is 20% owned on DK, but he's only 5% on FanDuel. So really curious to see how this one plays out. We have a great slate today. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, let's try to get quick here, get everybody out so they can start building some lineups. Cleveland, Pittsburgh. Someone's asking about Big Ben putting up 30. I think Big Ben's a really good GPP quarterback. Double stack him with Juju and Chase Claypool. Chase Claypool is extremely chalky today as well. So I love Juju Smith-Schuster at like 0% ownership today. I think that's perfect on DraftKings. James Conner, if you want to play him, I'm not going to, but he's really low owned. If you think that Pittsburgh can score a ton of points, they got a 27.25 implied team total, so that's really good. Eric Ebron as well. But I don't have a ton of Pittsburgh, but Juju Smith-Schuster is one of my favorite receivers on the slate. On Cleveland, not playing one person. So there you have it for me. What about you?
I have Big Ben, every combo possible. Pretty much I have one of each right now. I have Big Ben, Connor, Juju, Connor, and Claypool, and Juju, Ebron, and some of them as well. Cleveland's really bad versus the tight end, borderline even worse than what Arizona was last season. So Eric Ebron does have that touchdown upside there, unless they just keep throwing 1-yard touchdowns to Chase Claypool, which at that point I'm going to lose my mind if that chalk hits for 3 touchdowns and 45 DK again. But I'm hoping that will not be the case. Eric Ebron, really good touchdown equity. On the Browns, OBJ is a fade for me. Tough matchup there for him. Pretty much forcing in Landry in some lineups, but it's not even because I like it. It's more so just because I want to run it back with somebody in most of them. But for my Pittsburgh stacks, the large majority of them don't have anybody running it back. Pretty much just going Big Ben with 2 weapons. And then in some of them, I ended up putting Landry in there. Pretty much a PPR machine. The guy's going to get 10+ targets, probably ends up getting 8 to 10 catches there. So volume's there for a guy like that. He has a safe floor, especially on DraftKings where it's full point PPR.
I do kind of like Austin Hooper. I think he's a good GPP tight end who's super cheap that everybody's going to seem to overlook. So if you like Pittsburgh in this offense, I think run it back with, like he said, Jarvis Landry, or go with Hooper if you want to be really, really different, or play Odell. No one's playing Odell Beckham, so we don't have to tell you how good he is. You've seen it before. Next game, Denver and the New England Patriots. Phillip Lindsay's the cheapest RB1 on this slate now with no Melvin Gordon. I don't think I'm going to play much of him, but he's 4,300, so you can get a really, really, really sexy lineup if you wanted to play Phillip Lindsay, but he's going to split time with Royce Freeman too, so I'm not super interested. I absolutely love Cam Newton in GPPs. I'm just going to leave it at that. I think Damiere Byrd is that punt play wide receiver 3 that someone was asking for. I think Damiere Byrd. And I'm going to have a ton of Cam. No one's talking about Cam. The model loves him. I personally did not like Cam Newton at all going into this week, but the model spit him out as like the number 3 quarterback. So I'm going to have to follow suit and play a ton of him. I'm not going to play Edelman. I just don't see the upside there, even though I love picking on the slot of Denver because Bryce Callahan, their slot corner, is now on the outside, has been for like the last couple of weeks. And it's that rookie E. Swang, or I don't know, he's got a crazy name. I don't know how to pronounce it. He's tiny, but Edelman's pretty small himself, and he's not, but he's 5,600, so I don't know. I like N'Keal Harry too. I just like everything about Cam Newton in this game. I'll only stack him with one guy most likely and just hope that Cam gets a running game, but I think Cam could absolutely blow the doors off us in GPPs here.
If you are playing this game, I would go Cam and N'Keal Harry probably. I do like him in that matchup on the outside, or Damiere Byrd, either one. That's pretty much everything. And Patriots D. I'm not touching this Denver offense with a 10-foot pole. I know Drew Lock is back, but Belichick takes away their top weapon. They pretty much only have one weapon in Jerry Jeudy. Noah Fant is out. Judy's I think Jeudy gets the best of Stephon Gilmore. Probably draws a couple pass interference flags, but pass interference flags don't get us points in fantasy. So I really don't see this game having all that much appeal other than Cam. And if you are pairing him with a wide receiver, I do like N'Keal Harry there. And Cam is on pace for the most rushing attempts in his entire career, by the way. So Belichick is letting him do his thing. If you thought he ran a lot in Carolina, tune into a New England game and you will see how much the man is running out there. So if you're looking for a rushing quarterback on a slate like this, not sure it gets any better than Lamar Jackson and a tier 2 option in Cam Newton.
Yep, absolutely love it. James White, for me, no. They just play way too many people in that backfield, and this is not a game script where they're going to be chasing points. So I don't think we see a ton of James White. He'll probably get you 8-9 points, but I don't want that. Tannehill or Fitzpatrick for cash? I think I'm going to go with Tannehill. But you could certainly use Fitzy too, but we're getting into that game right now. The weather in Miami apparently is really bad. If anybody's there, let us know. And then send us an invite for a beach day sometime because Miami's probably a badass time. But yeah, I think Tannehill's a safer guy there. New York, Miami. I'm not going to play one single Jet, and I know we got to get moving here, so I'm not playing any Jets. If you want to Crowder's too damn expensive for me, but if you want to ride him, he is averaging a shit ton of points per game. I love Myles Gaskin. His ownership went from like 20 to 15. Still pretty high, but he's got like a 4-catch prop. What is his odds to score? -175. So Vegas, Jordan Howard is probably going to be inactive again just from coach's scratch. So I like Myles Gaskin a lot as a pivot off of David Montgomery, or pair them together and just load up big-time wide receivers. Sia's here. Duh. Weather is fine right now. 15 minutes from stadium. Ray may pop up here and there. I forgot Sia lives in Miami. Dude's living the dream. But yes, weather looks good then. Yeah, so Fitzpatrick or Tannehill, either one. Those are probably likely. If I don't get to Watson, it's going to be one of those two for me. Stack here. Fitz, Goatsecki. Do love Goatsecki. And Gaskin for a stack for GPPs. Yeah, I think if you were going to use Fitz, you should probably use Devontae Parker or Preston with Gesicki, sure. But I don't see it. They're both in great matchups. I mean, Preston Williams is so cheap. Take the over on his receiving yards on sportsbooks right now. I'll post that article right after this as well. I got to get so much shit done. But yeah, what are your thoughts on this game? I just don't want to play this game much besides Gaskin and Miami defense because the pace. Like if New York can't score at all, I don't know. I don't like it.
Yeah, I'll keep this one short. If you're playing a Jet, it's Crowder. The PPR volume's there, but I'm on team do not play Jets in 2020. If you're playing Fitz, Devontae Parker is a must for me today. I think he has a really good game. Preston Williams has decent touchdown equity. I consider him pretty much on the same level as Gesicki there, slight edge to Gesicki just because of how weak tight end is this week. Myles Gaskin's ownership has been going the opposite direction on FanDuel, so I'm off it. I'm not playing Myles Gaskin, but I'm
cool with that.
Definitely see why. I mean, he's gonna have the positives game script. I just similarly to how David Montgomery's in a good matchup versus a terrible run DVOA, but he's not the best running back. Period. Which is why people aren't absolutely smashing David Montgomery's ownership to 60-70%. Still high at 25, but if that was Derrick Henry versus Carolina, it would be 60-70%. So similarly to that, Myles Gaskin is not exactly an elite rusher, averaging pretty much 4 yards per carry there. So for that ownership, I will be fading in tournaments, but I do see the play there. And again, another example of how the ownership discrepancies are different from site to site. If it's trending down on DraftKings, take advantage of it. On FanDuel, it's doing the opposite. He's trending into the Jonathan Taylor, James Robinson range right now in ownership. Yep.
Gaskin is in my main lineup right now. It scares the hell out of me, but it's on DraftKings. So you get the pass catching, so he'll have a good day.
Yeah.
Just need him to get in the box. Next game, last game, favorite game. Highest total on the slate. I think we're getting to 56 points before the game actually kicks off because 95% of the money's on the over and it's still coming in on the over. Aaron Rodgers at 3 to 4% ownership in the highest total game against a defense that just lost their – I think he's their most impactful player on defense in Vita VA. I haven't heard injury news on Tampa Bay, but I know that both the corners are banged up. They got banged up in that Bears game. Goddamn train. Go ahead. What are your thoughts on this game? I'm going to mute until that train goes.
Do love Rodgers, Adams, Aaron Jones. MVS is going to get a 60-yard touchdown on a go route this week. Giddy up on FanDuel, 1% ownership at 5,600. Perfect pivot to Chase Claypool chalk. So make sure you get some MVS in there too. If you're looking to take down some large field tournaments, the edge is definitely right at that price point for me this week. Ton of Rodgers, ton of Aaron Jones, ton of Adams. Tonyan is the guy that I have very little of. One thing I do want to say is that because Vita Vea is not able to pressure up the middle, I don't think they'll need as much Robert Tonyan on the line. But if they do use him on the line to block a bit more, that's my main concern with him. Also, his price is based on what he's been doing in the past couple of weeks, but Adams has not been there. So a couple boxes that are checked off there for Tonyan that make me end up leaning towards a fade, but I do see why he's in play. On the Bucs side, it's Ronald Jones. You can run on this Green Bay defense. I'm not worried whatsoever about Leonard Fournette. I'd be surprised if he even saw the field this week. Both Ronald Jones and Keyshawn Vaughn are healthy. I don't see the need for them to, make Leonard Fournette rush even 10 times in a game like this. I'd be surprised if he if he even got a single touch. So Ronald Jones, you can run against this Green Bay defense, and it is Chris Godwin week. Giddy up, 5% owned on FanDuel. Mike Evans against Jair Alexander, who is one of, if not the best cornerback in football, or at least will be in a year from now. No Mike Evans there. He does have the size advantage, but Jair Alexander is an athletic machine. So I will be fading Mike Evans, and I am loading up on a 5 to 6% owned Chris Godwin out of the slot. He's Brady's far and away favorite target, and I think he has a monster game here.
That train's still honking his damn horn. But yeah, my favorite stack, like I'm all about Ronald Jones and Chris Godwin this game. That, like I said, I have such a minimal player pool. I need to take stances. I love Tampa Bay offense in this game as well against Green Bay, but I couldn't say any better myself about Jair Alexander and Mike Evans. Mike Evans can certainly break the slate. I'm just going all to Chris Godwin if he's going to be 5% owned. I love Devonta Adams. I think he's the best wide receiver on this slate by far. And, he's going to get 10 to 15 targets in a game with this total. Like, it's Devonta Adams. When they are playing a fast game, he gets a ton of targets. And then Aaron Jones, man, without Vita VA, the guy takes up 2 gaps himself. Like, he's just a wide, huge son of a bitch. Just a scary guy to run on. You can't run on him. But Tampa Bay's weakness has been giving up receptions to opposing running backs. Number 4 in that category, Aaron Jones, in my opinion, is the most talented pass-catching running back in the NFL. I know other guys get more catches than him, but Aaron Jones himself is one hell of a wide receiver. Can do it out of in the flats. He could do it from the slot. I think this is a great game script for him to never leave the field. You'll see some Jamal Williams, but you're not going to see much A.J. Dillon today because they're going to be going back and forth. This is going to be such a fun game to watch. I'm 100% off Tanyan. I think he was just a product of Devonta Adams not being out there. He's a good tight end, sure, but I'm not buying into the recency bias there. I'm just going Aaron Jones, Devonta Adams, a little bit of MVS because I did call that a 50-yard touchdown that's going to be on Jamel Dean on the right side of the football field. That's where it's going to happen. And then Aaron, absolutely love him. Top quarterback for me on the slate, top 4. Anything else to add to that, or should we get out of here? What in the hell?
That's everything. We'll list our top options quickly, and then we'll let everybody get out of here.
All right, Scotty Miller. I don't know if he's playing. If he doesn't, I don't care. I think Tyler Johnson took his role. Tyler Johnson is a stud athlete. I think he was fun to watch against the Bears. I wish Godwin was out for this game because 3,400 Tyler Johnson would have been my lock of the week, but can't do it anymore with Godwin there. All right, top quarterbacks for me. GPP-wise, that is going to be Lamar Jackson, Aaron Rodgers, and then Cam Newton. For cash, I love Deshaun Watson, and then Tannehill's fine.
Watson, Rodgers, and Lamar for me.
All right, let's go. Running back. Top running back for me, I have to say it now, Derrick Henry. Said it all show. I can't back down now. Favorite GPP running back, Aaron Jones. And then I do like Montgomery and Gaskin, but Swift is also sneaky.
I will eat the chalk with Alexander Madison. I think he has a great day. Aaron Jones and Mike Davis. Low ownership on FanDuel. So Mike Davis.
All right, I'm down with that. As a low owned on FanDuel. Wide receiver, easy. Devonta Adams. I'm chewing an apple here. Allen Robinson and Will Fuller, I think. And then Kenny Galladay, I absolutely love him. He's just my cash lock everywhere, so I'll have a ton of him. And my punt, I guess, is Demir Bird. I'm just saying random shit right now, but just want to give you all, literally, I don't know if I've ever been this locked into a slate. I love Hollywood Brown, too. I love a lot of guys. Apparently.
Give me Devontae Adams as top wide receiver on the slate, and load up on that Houston, Tennessee wide receiver game. A.J. Brown, Will Fuller, Brandon Cooks, and then Minnesota, Atlanta, Justin Jefferson, Thielen, Julio, Ridley. A lot of guys in good spots. Lower owned guys, Laviska. MVS goes for a bomb today. I have a ton of MVS pivot towards that Claypool chalk.
Yeah, I love that. Calvin Ridley is under 10% owned, guys. So that one's pretty easy. If you like that Atlanta-Minnesota game, Calvin Ridley. All right, tight ends for me, Mark Andrews, easily the top one. I do like Zach Ertz again with Lane Johnson out. I think Zach Ertz is going to get 6-7 catches today, so the value's there at $5K. I just don't see a ceiling game from him. I like Hayden Hurst as a sneaky 0% owned tight end. And then Irv Smith is my punt. Trey, I'll get to this in 1 second. Devonta Freeman, I'm 100% out on. Are you in on Freeman or no?
No,
We didn't really
absolutely.
talk about him. I get it, though. Like
No Miles Boykin either. I see a question from Miles Boykin. No Miles Boykin.
No Miles Boykin. But yeah, Devonta Freeman, I get it. Season long, you probably got to play him if he's on your team. He's going to get 15 carries. I just don't want I do not want to invest in New York or Washington really at all besides their defense. Dre, I'll get to this in a second. Though with tight ends, what do you got? Seems like we're going to be a
Mark Andrews.
I'm
play Mark Andrews on FanDuel. Please play Mark Andrews on FanDuel. If that was Kelsey, he would be 99% owned. Please play Mark Andrews on FanDuel. That's all I'm going to say.
All right. I like it. My main lineup right now is looking like shit. I don't even know what it is. The Lamar Jackson. I think it's naked Lamar. Irv Smith is the tight end. I think I have Aaron Jones. I got it's expensive wide receivers, and Aaron Jones is the running back. I think Henry's in there too. Irv Smith opens up the world for me. So if Irv Smith scores a touchdown, I'm going to be the happiest guy in the world until AJ Brown scores 2 touchdowns and kills me. But there you go. Slay will travel. I don't care if Slay travels. Hollywood Brown's way too fast. Slay playing, I think I said he was active, right? Let's get out of here, though. I like it. Thanks for joining us. Great time as well. A lot of good questions. Hit us up on Discord. I'll probably be busy until kickoff because I got to write this article real quick. But we should make a ton of money. Read that. I think it's really, really good plays this week. And good luck, Ghost. Thanks again, man.
Thank you, bro. Good luck, guys.